Jack Bradley, born on Cape Cod in the village of Cotuit in January 1934, was one of the very finest and most renowned of jazz photographers. In December 1959, backstage at Carnegie Hall in New York City, Jack met his idol, Louis Armstrong, and soon became one of Louis's closest friends. In fact, Pops was fond of calling Jack "my son." One of Jack's early mentors was a Cotuit legend named Bob Hayden, who introduced Jack to the matchless music of Louis Armstrong. In Jack's own words, "And to think that I went from listening to 78s of Louis's music in Bob's home to hanging out with the man himself in his Queens home was just unbelievable to me." Unbelievable, yes, but also true. And the proof is in the hundreds of exquisite photographs that Jack took of Louis over the years. Louis in performance, Louis backstage, Louis relaxing at home. Perhaps because Louis Armstrong loved and trusted Jack Bradley so very much that his guard was down and he could truly be himself in front of Jack's camera. Jack Bradley and his camera were welcome in the many jazz clubs that flourished in New York City in the late 50s and early 60s. Why? Because Jack was Louis Armstrong's photographer and dear friend. How did Jack meet Pops? After a stint in the Merchant Marines, our hero arrived in Manhattan with a duffel bag and a camera. At a party, he met a young lady named Jean Phalos. While chatting, Jean asked Jack, "Who's your favorite trumpet player?" "Louis Armstrong, of course," replied Jack. "Oh, him," said Jean, who then turned and walked away. Oh well, thought Jack. But a moment later, Jean was back, a huge smile on her face. "I was only messing with you, Jack. I actually work for Pops." It was true. Jean Phalos worked in the office of Armstrong's manager, Joe Glazer, helping out with Louis's voluminous fan mail. Soon, Jack and Jean were a couple, and Jack found himself at the Armstrongs' home in Corona, Queens. While Jean and Lucille Armstrong chatted downstairs, Jack and Louis were upstairs in Pops' study. "I was so nervous, being in his presence, that I was trembling," Jack once told me. But Pops put his hand on my shoulder, smiled, and said, "Everything's cool, man. We're just two guys hanging out." After that, my nerves vanished and I had a fantastic time. "But that was Pops," said Jack. "Louis Armstrong could put anyone at ease." Jack spent many a night at the Copper Rail, a legendary Times Square establishment across the street from the Metropole Jazz Club. This was a different time for entertainment, with the artists and their audience dressed to the nines. Ruby Braff, Bobby Hackett, Red Allen, Vic Dickinson, Coleman Hawkins. They all hung out at the Copper Rail and were captured for all time by Jack's camera. Jack also tried his hand at owning and running his own Manhattan jazz club, Bourbon Street, at 118 West 48th Street. The club's motto? Good old Bayou Jazz and Cookin'. Running for several years, Bourbon Street was known for its top-notch New Orleans-style food and for its top-notch music. Although Louis Armstrong never played a show at Bourbon Street, he was often at his own table with his lovely Lucille, digging musicians such as the Ellington trumpeter, violinist, and singer Ray Nance. But Jack Bradley was not only loved by jazz musicians because of his skill with a camera. Jack was also beloved because of his big heart and endless generosity. For example, in April 1967, the great trumpeter Henry Red Allen passed away, leaving a bit of debt. Within hours, Jack was organizing a benefit concert that not only paid for Red's funeral, but also helped out his widow and grandchildren. Later, in 1976, the trumpeter Bobby Hackett died in Chatham, Massachusetts. Sadly, there was not enough money to pay for a proper headstone. Jack once again came to the rescue, raising the necessary funds to purchase a proper stone for this magnificent musician. A decade later, Louis Armstrong's adopted son, Clarence Armstrong, passed away. Clarence was the son of Louis's teenage cousin, who died young. When Armstrong was only 17, he adopted Clarence, a baby boy who had been mentally damaged by a fall from a New Orleans porch. For his entire life, Louis Armstrong looked after and supported Clarence. However, when Clarence died, the money had dried up, and he was to be buried in a pauper's grave. "Not on my watch," said Jack, who once again raised the necessary funds to have Clarence buried with dignity. As the trumpeter Ruby Braff once told me, Jack Bradley's heart is as big as his mouth.
I got a gal who's always late every time that we have a date, but I love her. Yes, I love her. I'm gonna walk up to her gate and see if I can get it straight, 'cause I want her. I'm gonna ask her, is you is or is you ain't my baby? The way you treat me lately makes me doubt you is still my baby, baby. Seems my flame in your heart's done gone out. Now a woman is a creature that has always been strange. Just when you think you know her, she's done gone and changed. Is you is, or is you ain't my baby. The way you treat me lately makes me doubt. Is you is, or is you ain't my baby. Maybe baby's found somebody new. Or is my baby still my baby true?
Jack, it's Lauren, and I am so thrilled to have this opportunity, thanks to all your great friends in the Cape, starting with Mike Persico, to pay tribute to you and just let you know again. I've let you know before, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to do it again, how much you mean to me. My career in New York began at a jazz museum, and in my 60s now, it looks as though it's going to end with an association at some point with another jazz museum, and you helped me do that. You opened doors for me. You opened doors for thousands of people, not just into careers, but into lives and into ways of living and thinking about the music. And I'm speaking on behalf of the untold amount of people who owe you. You'll hear from some of them here, but there are so many out in the world, and their spirits continue to swing. And also, to throw the focus on another aspect of your life, which is your great artistry. As a photographer, your importance as a historian and a collector, without which your photos and your collections, the America's cultural world would be so much poorer. Thank God they've wound up in such a great home at the Louis Armstrong House Museum. It's hard to believe, but it was almost 50 years ago, close to 50 years ago, when I met you at the New York Jazz Museum on West 55th Street. It was a place where it was small, and it was a small little place, but it was a huge place in terms of the people that were there and the vibe that you set. And when I think of the people that were there all the time, whether it was Johnny Robinson, or whether it was Joe Thomas, the trumpet player, or Billy Butterfield, or Ruby Braff, or Clarence Armstrong, or Marge Singleton, just for starters. It makes me think about the fact that it was your vibe that made the place happen. I mean, it was only a couple of years after Louis Armstrong had passed away, and a lot of those folks were looking for a center, and you gave them a center. Anyway, Jack, I love you. I love Nancy, and I'll never be able to repay the debt that I owe you folks for telling me what was what. It took me a long time to figure it out. And specifically, when you would talk about being a disciple of Louis Armstrong, among the people around the museum was your great friend Dan Morgenstern. And between what Dan was writing and what you were saying, at that time, at first I didn't understand what the heck you meant as a disciple of Louis Armstrong. It took me a while to figure it out. I'm still understanding it. But you were so far ahead of the game and helped point the way for so many people. So I send you love, and I hope you have a great summer. And this wonderful project of putting your archives, your photographic archives, and everything else in your collection, even outside of the Armstrong things, all together is so important. I send you love from the Bronx. And I put together this little tribute. It's a beautiful song that you hit me to, the Louis Armstrong version. So many years ago, a great album, pink cover on Decca Records, called Rare Items. The liner notes were by Dan, and you played me the 78, I remember. It's called Thanks a Million, and although the lyrics are a little romantic, that's not why I chose it. I chose it because of the sentiment of thanks a million to you.
Jack spent over 15 years in New York City, returning to Cape Cod in 1976, where he documented such jazz greats as Bobby Hackett, Dave McKenna, Ruby Braff, and Cape Cod's godfather of jazz, Lou Colombo. While on Cape Cod, Jack co-founded, along with the marvelous pianist Marie Marcus, the Cape Cod Jazz Society, which thrived for decades. Our friend also opened one of the very coolest jazz record shops, Vintage Jazz, that ever existed on planet Earth, as well as producing and hosting a swinging jazz show on WFCC. The 1980 Cape Cod Jazz Festival, conceived, produced, and ran by Jack in May of 1980, is still talked about in awed, hushed whispers by local jazz fanatics. Lou Colombo, Jim Blackmore, Doc Cheatham, Vic Dickinson, Earl Father Hines, Scott Hamilton, Dick Johnson, Marie Marcus, Buddy Rich, the new Black Eagle Jazz Band, Roomful of Blues, Bob Wilbur, Dick Wetmore. Oh, for a time machine. It is not an exaggeration to say that Jack Bradley helped to bring the New York City jazz scene to our own Cape Cod. And when my students would read my novel, Travels with Louis, Jack would graciously drive in from Harwich to speak with the kids about Pops. A mesmerizing speaker, Jack had the students in the palm of his hand as he told tale after tale about his years with one of America's greatest musicians. Quote, "One night we were in a motel in Framingham, Massachusetts," Jack would say. "Pops walked over to a mini fridge, opened it, and said to me, 'Look, Jack, there are eggs and milk and bacon in this fridge. I can cook up a meal if I'm hungry.'" With tears in his eyes, Jack Bradley would tell my students, Louis Armstrong was worshipped by millions, by princes and presidents and popes, but he never forgot his roots. He never forgot the poverty of his childhood. He never forgot where he came from. And the very same can be said of Jack Bradley. Jack never forgot where he came from, Cape Cod.
I'll be loving you always. a love that's true. Always, when there's things you planned need a helping hand, I will understand. Always, always, days may not be fair. Always, that's when I'll be there. Always, not for just an hour, not for just a day, not for just a year. Always. I do when you are far away and I am blue? What'll I do? What'll I do when I am wondering who is kissing you? What'll I do? What'll I do with just a photograph to tell all my troubles to? When I'm alone with only those dreams of you that won't come true, what'll I do? I'm alone with only dreams of you that won't come true. Oh, what'll I do?
Although Louis Armstrong, Pops to his closest friends, was Jack's favorite subject, Jack's camera was also at every single Duke Ellington recording session held in New York City in the 1960s. In the summer of 1962, the Ellington Orchestra played an extended gig at Storyville, Cape Cod, a George Wein-owned club in Harwich. Jack's photos of a napping Duke, of Johnny Hodges playing in the sand with bandmates' children, of Paul Gonsalves frolicking in the surf, are some of the most delightful and unguarded photos ever taken of the Ellington Orchestra. Duke Ellington lived from 1899 to 1974. Composing over 2,000 pieces of music, Duke is our nation's finest composer, America's Mozart, America's Bach. One evening in the summer of '62, Jack was backstage by the curtains watching the Ellington Orchestra play its first number. The piano chair, Duke's chair, was empty, a typical sight for the first song. Suddenly, a voice whispered in Jack's ear, "You don't know who I am, but I know who you are." It was Edward Kennedy Ellington himself, who then glided past Jack to take his place at the piano and lead his band through yet another magnificent performance. That Duke, remembered Jack, was one mysterious cat.
Above that shine so bright, the mystery of their fading light that shines upon our caravan. Sleep upon my shoulder as we creep across the sand so I may keep the memory of this caravan. This is so exciting, and you are so inviting. Rest here in my arms, and thrill to the magic of your charms. You beside me here beneath the blue, our dream of love is coming true within our desert caravan. exciting, and you are so inviting. Rest here in my arms and thrill to the magic of your charms. You beside me here beneath the blue. Our dream of love is coming true within our desert caravan. Within our desert caravan. Within our desert caravan.
Jack Bradley was a passionate supporter of civil rights. Our man hated bigotry of any type. At 2 a.m. on the morning of August 28, 1963, Jack hopped on a bus in Hyannis that by 9 a.m. dropped him off in our nation's capital. It was the sweltering morning of the famous March on Washington, in which the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. gave his immortal I Have a Dream speech. Jack often grew teary when he remembered this day. Quote, "I've never felt such a feeling of brotherhood and sisterhood as on that day. And to hear Dr. King give that speech live, man." 2 years later, in 1965, Jack offered to drive Danny Barker back to his hometown of New Orleans. Google Mr. Danny Barker sometime. A teacher, a guitarist, a banjo player, a writer, a raconteur. Mr. Barker, with his wife, Blue Lou, could do it all. He was also a passionate advocate for the traditional form of New Orleans music. Because he dove back into his community with relish, forming youth bands, teaching and playing, music scholars believe that Danny Barker revived New Orleans' pride in its native music. For this trip down south, Jack bought a copy of the famous Green Book, which pointed out which restaurants, diners, hotels, and motels safely welcome black patrons. Quote, "But I should have saved my money," remembered Jack. Danny Barker had the entire Green Book memorized in his head. While in New Orleans, Jack heard that the Colored Waifs Home, the orphanage where a 12 and 13-year-old Louis Armstrong learned the rudiments of music, was to be torn down. Dashing over, Jack rescued a stairway railing just hours before the wrecking ball did its work. Today, that railing has a place of pride in the New Orleans Jazz Museum. A plaque reads, "Saved by Jack Bradley."
Catherine Russell here. I love you so much, and I am so honored that we get to be on this planet at the same time, and I get to be with you and experience you and be your friend. And I thank you so much for everything. I thank you for coming to my shows. That's the first time I met you. You came to a show of mine. I think it was the first time I sang on Cape Cod, and you were the best audience. It was just a wonderful experience. I wanted to also share with the people a piece of original sheet music that I got from your collection, and this is a group called the Smoky Mokes, and the tune is Cakewalk and Two-Step, and this photograph, it says, has a copyright of 1899. So this is just one of the treasures from your sheet music collection, and I also fell in love with your mouthpiece collection. So I can just imagine the horn and the player from this mouthpiece. All of the time that you spent with Louis Armstrong, the photographs of Louis and all of the jazz icons that you photograph and share with us, you're keeping the history alive, and that's what it's all about. So I look forward to the presentation that you and Mike Persico have put together so that the world knows what we already know, that you're a national treasure. Love you so much, Jack. Look forward to being with you soon, and once again, just thank you for everything.
The advent of bebop, the moldy figs versus the young cats. Jack planted his flag in the camp of Louis Armstrong's generation. But as an artist, he always had his eye open for the perfect photograph. Charles Mingus, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Howard McGhee, one of Charlie Parker's very favorite trumpeters, who often played at the Panama Club on Main Street in Hyannis, Dave Brubeck, Paul Desmond. These artists might not have been on Jack's turntable. It was usually Pops or sometimes Lester Young or Billie Holiday, but they certainly appeared in his lens. One afternoon, Jack was telling me that he never quite understood the allure of Miles Davis. "I just don't dig his sound," he said. "Even kinda blue?" I asked. "Yep," replied Jack. "I just don't dig it." Reaching into my teacher bag of tricks, I came up with a pretty nifty simile. "Jack, the way I think of it is like this. Louis Armstrong is like bright, beautiful sunshine, while Miles Davis is like lovely, filtered moonlight." "Hey, that's pretty good," said Jack. "You're not as dumb as you look." The next time I visited, Jack said, I gave Miles another try. I'm beginning to like him, but he'll never take the place of Pops." Without a doubt, Miles himself would agree with these words. No one will ever take the place of Louis Armstrong or Jack Bradley. Jack's highest praise to a fellow jazz fan was that he or she is spreading the gospel. Well, here is Jack Bradley, both keeping the faith and spreading the gospel with these sterling photographs. These are the musicians who played jazz, who played swing, who played Dixie, who played bop. Guys and gals like the musicians here tonight, who are in every town in America, playing and enjoying this glorious music and keeping it alive for future generations. If jazz, as many believe, is America's very finest gift to world culture, then Jack Bradley was one of the music's very finest photographers. Although, if he were here tonight, Jack would grow shy at the idea that he was a truly great artist. Jack Bradley was truly a great, great artist.
Carolina gave me Dinah. I'm the proudest one beneath the southern sun. News is spreading about our wedding. I hear church bells ringing. Here's the song my heart keeps singing. Dinah, is there anyone finer in the state of Carolina? If there is and you know her, show her to me. Dinah, with those southern eyes blazing, how I'd love to sit and gaze into the eyes of Dinah Lee. Every night, why do I shake with fright? Because my Dinah might change her mind about me. Dinah, if she wandered to China, I would hop an ocean liner just to be with Dinah Lee.
I see trees of green, red roses too, and I see them bloom for me and you. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright, blessed day and the dark, sacred night. And I think to myself, oh, what a wonderful world. All the colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, and also on the faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? Oh, they're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They will learn so much more than I'll ever hope to know. And I think to myself, oh, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah. How the colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, and also on the faces of those people going by. I see friends, they're shaking hands, saying, how do you do? You know, they're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. You know, they're gonna learn so much more than I'll ever hope to know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful world.